Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. I'm Marco D'Angelo, joined in studio with my partner in crime, Bryan Leonard. We're going to take a look at a baseball handicapping, something that as we keep evolving, more and more stats, more and more information, Bryan, people look at totals in baseball, and totals are a good way to go in baseball because generally you're not going to be laying those big prices as far as juice goes. The most you're going to probably ever see is maybe a minus $1.25 before the line, moves a half a run one way or the other. So it's a way to attack baseball every day without being, high variance of laying big prices. But people like to look at umpires. It's becoming more fashionable as we have, like I said, there's just so much information out there. You would see the lineups, you see who's going to be behind home plate. Some of these guys seem to have patterns where they're very characteristic of, if they got a short strike, a small strike zone or a wide strike zone. What do you think about this angle in baseball, and especially with the totals?
Well, Major League Baseball's trying to make it so everybody has a uniform strike zone. But everybody has been doing it for so long, you're bound to show some prejudices, and that's what we try to look for. I know Base Winner on his daily podcast, he breaks down the umpires, and he does a lot more totals than I do. I don't play a lot of totals. Well, let's just say I don't give out to my clients a lot of totals. I'll bet anything if I think I've got an edge, and if somebody I know's got a nice total, I'll play it. But you can look at that and you'll say, well, this guy's an over umpire. He's got two guys pitching that are not very good pitchers. The bullpens are somewhat used from the day before. Makes a lot of sense to play an over in that situation.
Yeah, and some of the top over umpires in Major League Baseball this year, again, when you're looking at just one season of stats, you always got that, well, it's a small sample size, but, we have a guy that we used to go to, the Tuesday meetings. That's all he wanted to hear was stats that were that year. Sean, and he would, just ride those till they weren't worth it anymore, because it doesn't do you any good if you look back, you missed all of this year if that pattern continues next year. But the top over umpire in Major League Baseball's this year so far, and we're taping here June 8th, is Jerry Mills. He's had 10 games behind home plate, 8-1-1 to the over in his games. Bill Wilkie, 8-2 to the over. Kerwin Danley, 7-2. And Brian Gorman, 7-2, all over umpires. So definitely, like you say, if you just do a little bit of homework and you see the home plate umpire is somebody that's got, a tendency to the overs, and you got two pitchers that, maybe aren't in good current form or, having a bad year. There's so many other, variables to look at. If I look at a guy that's, an over pitcher or an over umpire, and I got pitchers that got high whips that are putting a lot of guys on base, to me, that's the formula to be looking to the over. Would you agree?
Yeah, normally you want to get the biggest sample sizes as you possibly can. I used to follow the umpires with the over-unders. One year they're an over umpire, the next year they're under umpire. I think some of that has to do with either at the end of the year somebody will tell them, in that situation, or the league will say, "Did you know you had more runs in your game scored than anybody else?" As for the over/unders, overall, it's just such a small sample size. What I like to do is I like to watch the games and see if he's giving the pitchers benefits of the doubt. You look at a game and they'll throw it all. They'll throw the ball in, and you say, "Well, that's a strike," and he doesn't give it to you. And so watching that over and over, it'll tell you next time that guy's behind the plate, I'll say, "Remember I saw him last time, and he's got a wide strike zone, or he's got a really tight strike zone," and that's something. It's the stats aren't there, but it's in your mind. It's sort of like watching a football game.
The top under umpires this year, DJ Rayburn, 7 games behind home plate, 1-6 to the under. Mark Reppinger, 2-9 to the under. Scott Berry, 2-6 to the under, and longtime umpire Jim Joyce, 3-8 to the under. So it's definitely just another thing to add to your handicapping arsenal. We say it over and over again. Knowledge is power, and you think about, me and you've been doing this for over 30 years. You go back to when we started out. The information that we had, or I should say the lack of information, we were scurrying around to find any little nugget that gave us just the slightest edge that somebody else might not know. That now that so many of these things are readily available if you just do your homework. There's so many sites and places that you can find all these things to make you a better bettor.
So many things in which to win on. Problem is using all that information and coming to your own conclusions. Sometimes you do get the information overload, but to me, if it makes sense, a lot of people use the trends. Well, if they don't make sense, I don't care. And that's really what I look for, something that makes sense.
And one of the problems, though, too, in the age of technology is just about everything that you have, so do the odds makers too.
The bookmakers have the same thing as you do. You're just trying to keep up.
Yeah. Before, when everything wasn't as readily available, it was a situation where you could scoop them on stuff. But, now you're not going to get a big scoop, but you're still going to be able to find some places where, again, when you apply everything there, because they have limitations too. I mean, they're only going to make a total so low or so high. They have floorings and ceilings that on these totals where you think you can, find the advantage. So hope you guys found this video helpful. Hey, if you're new to WagerTalk, after your first $12 purchase, email support@WagerTalk. Give your username. We'll give you a $50 sign-up bonus. That's our way of saying thank you for joining the WagerTalk family. Check it out at wagertalk.com. After your first $12 purchase or more, we'll give you $50. We'll be back with more here at wagertalk.com.